The things that hurt horses most aren't the dramatic ones, not the bad falls, not the badly timed departs, not even the parasite burden you missed for a season. The things that hurt your horse most are the things you do for them, every day, with good intentions and a clear conscience. That's the part that's hard to hear. If you've had horses long enough, you know the guilt cycle. Something shifts, a behavioral change, a soundness issue, a vet call you didn't see coming, and you run back through your own choices looking for a mistake. Most of the time, you don't find one because the thing causing the harm didn't look like a mistake. It looked like routine. It looked like care. 6 things specifically come up repeatedly in equine welfare research and behavioral science. 6 everyday habits that cause real, measurable harm that most owners are doing right now with no idea. Start with the one that surprises people most. Horses produce gastric acid continuously, not just when food arrives, continuously around the clock, whether the stomach is full or not. That's different from how human digestion works, and it matters more than most people realize. In the wild, horses spend somewhere between 16 and 20 hours a day grazing, a near constant trickle of forage that buffers the acid as it accumulates. Take that away, feed twice a day on a fixed schedule, and you're leaving the lower half of the stomach bathed in acid for hours at a stretch. The squamous mucosa, the upper unprotected lining, has almost no defense against it. Research consistently puts the prevalence of gastric ulcers in performance horses at around 90%. In leisure horses, it's closer to 60%. 60%! Horses that look fine, that are, by every external measure, well cared for. The feeding schedule you built because it felt responsible is in many cases the thing doing the damage. That one lands badly, and it should. The second is movement. Horses evolved to move, not as exercise, not as enrichment, but as the baseline condition of being a horse. 16 to 20 hours of slow, continuous travel is what their gut, their joints, their psychology were built around. Stalling disrupts gut motility in ways that contribute directly to impaction colic. It limits proprioceptive input to joints in ways that accelerate stiffness, and it generates stereotypies, weaving, cribbing, box walking, that get labeled as vices but are actually something closer to the horse's nervous system trying to cope with a situation it was never designed for. The behavior isn't the problem, the confinement is. The third one is rugging, and this is where people push back. Horses thermoregulate far more effectively than most owners give them credit for. A healthy horse in good body condition can handle temperatures that would send most people inside, and the coat, when it's not being compressed under a rug, functions as a sophisticated insulation system with individual hairs that erect and flatten to trap or release heat as the body needs. Heavy rugging, especially in moderate temperatures, overrides all of that. It can cause overheating in conditions that don't look warm. It suppresses the natural coat response over time, and it restricts movement in ways that affect muscle engagement through the back and hindquarters. Not every horse, not in every climate or condition, but more often than the industry is comfortable saying out loud. The horse standing still in a heavy rug isn't warm and comfortable. It's thermostatically confused and mildly restricted.
The fourth thing is isolation. And this one isn't a management detail. It's a welfare issue, and there's a meaningful difference. Horses are obligate social animals. Not social in the way we sometimes mean it, preferring company, thriving with enrichment. Obligate. Their nervous systems were built inside a herd structure, and outside of it, they operate under a condition of chronic low-level threat they can never fully resolve. Isolation elevates cortisol, and not briefly, chronically, at a sustained level that the body never fully recovers from during a normal stable day. That chronic cortisol load disrupts digestion. It suppresses immune function. It degrades learning capacity and increases reactivity. The horse that seems sharp, anxious, hard to read, sometimes that's not a difficult horse. That's a stressed horse. And the stress isn't behavioral in origin. It's structural. One horse alone is a social animal with no social group, and everything downstream of that, the behavior, the tension, the unpredictability, makes more sense once you understand what the baseline actually is. The fifth everyday harm is the one almost nobody thinks about, and actually I want to be careful here because I'm about to make a sweeping claim that's more accurate in some directions than others. Dit and bridle fit, specifically fit that causes pain, is behind a meaningful proportion of behavioral issues that never get traced back to the equipment. A bit that's too long or too short, a port height pressing on the palate, a brow band 2 centimeters too tight creating steady pressure across the pole. These aren't dramatic injuries. They produce a low, chronic discomfort that horses express through resistance, head tossing, evasion, reluctance to go forward, things that get labeled as attitude, laziness, a training problem. The behavior is accurate. The interpretation is wrong. Pain gets read as personality, and the conversation moves on without the right question ever being asked. The sixth thing is the one almost nobody thinks about, and it might be the strangest one on this list. Horses need darkness, genuine darkness for melatonin production and for the neurological conditions that allow REM sleep. And REM sleep in horses requires lying down, which requires a surface that feels safe and a social environment that permits full relaxation. A horse that can't or won't lie down because the surface is wrong, because there's no companion nearby, because something hurts, becomes progressively sleep-deprived. Sleep-deprived horses show increased reactivity, deteriorating ability to learn, and in severe cases, collapse from microsleep. Most owners never connect the barn lighting they leave on overnight to the behavioral changes they notice the next morning. That one stays with me for some reason, maybe because it's so quiet. Light doesn't register as a welfare issue. It doesn't feel like something you're doing to your horse. It just feels like leaving the light on. But most of the things on this list feel like that. They feel like Tuesday. They feel like routine. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad about what you didn't know. You couldn't have known what you were never told. But these aren't fringe concerns or niche research. They're mainstream welfare science, and most of it doesn't make it back to the people who actually need it. Go watch your horse tonight. See if they lie down. Notice whether they have company and how their body changes when that animal leaves the field. Notice the feeding schedule. Notice the rug. The behavior you've been trying to manage might be answering a question you haven't thought to ask yet.